this is Charlie Mato-Toyela with another video on making Native American flutes. I bet you're wondering at this point, how could we have so many videos on making Native American flutes? But a lot of them are answering questions that people email me in and ask. This last week we had quite a few people asking questions about the track area. And even though we have the one video, the secret to Native American flute making, if you haven't seen it, I suggest watching. It's a pretty good one. But that video does, give a lot of insight and detail and depth into the track area of the flute. But there's always more room for, learning there. So there's a lot of different things you can do with the track area. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this piece of nice river cane here and make a flute out of it. And when we make the flute out of it, I'm going to make the track a couple of different ways. And I think that making the track this way will help answer a few of those questions a little easier. And if you want to come and take a look at me making this part of the flute, please forgive the shop, as it is full of flutes right now. We've been making them crazy left and right, so if you just come in and take a look, we'll see what it's going to take. So one question I've had a lot of people ask me is, how deep do I need to cut this area with my Forstner bit down? I wanted to mention to you that if you can see in here, I'm just using a little file to point with, but if you can see in here, the hole has about a good 1/8 of an inch of river cane inside of it before it actually gets to the interior of the flute. And you can probably see there's even a little bit more on this side, but that's because we're within the area of this node. The nodes go down at kind of a rounded angle like this, so it's not as open right here at the node as it is, say, this far away from the node. But if you look in this one, which is a little further away than this one is, it's about a good 1/8 of an inch of material that I have left. And the way that I guess this is I just, as I'm going down with my Forstner bit, I watch it start digging into the river cane. And if you look, my Forstner tip here is just a little bit bigger. It's probably 3/16 or something, a little bit bigger than an 1/8. And as soon as I can see that it's poked through, that's usually when I quit drilling. So that's how that guy works. To be honest with you, I've drilled them too deep before and made good sounding flutes out of them. And I've drilled them too shallow before and made good sounding flutes out of them. It's just a matter of working with what it is that you've got. But the ideal thing, I believe, would be about 1/8 of an inch, or in the case you're using a thinner walled material, leave as much of the material, the thickness here of this area right here, that you can, while still making a nice flat section. So really not a specific number that matters. What we're going to do right now, as most of you know that watch my videos, we're going to go ahead and burn these holes out with my little 1/4 inch burning tool here. It's not quite a 1/4 anymore, and it doesn't matter if it's a 1/4. I mean, some flutes I use 5/16 holes, some flutes 3/16 holes. Need to get that rod a little bit hotter. And the burning tool, what it does, for most of you that have watched, or some of you that maybe haven't watched other videos we have, the burning tool actually helps to clean the scar tissue inside of the flute. It does a really good job of it too. It just cauterizes everything, and in doing so, it helps the flute to make much better sounds. The air has less struggle escaping. So we're going to burn these other holes out. This rod's starting to look like it needs to be replaced too, or at least I need to cut some of the end of it off. It's all scarred up and whatnot. That happens from carbon deposits of the material that we make our flutes out of, any material. Those carbon deposits build up and eventually cause oxidation and flake off and whatnot. Kind of neat. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to heat up our track tool. And while it's heating up, I'm going to make a real quick flute block. Most of you know from watching my last videos on making flute blocks that I like to use a little piece of the river cane. This is actually the end off of the flute that we cut. And just take a knife, pretty simple stuff. This little X-Acto knife works pretty good. Honestly, my pocket knife I think works even better, even though my pocket knife is dull. The X-Acto knife though really is something I have a hard time living without in the shop. I'm just going to sand this off real quick. No need for you to watch it. You just want to take a look at my flute here in the meantime. Okay, so real simple flute block made out of a piece of river cane. We're going to check the length here. Really won't be accurate until we burn our square holes into it. But I have a pretty good educated guess. And let's see, track tool looks like it's getting pretty hot. I'm going to do this right here where you can see me. And just make a little bit of work inside here. A lot easier for us using the fire. If you haven't seen our track tool before, or haven't seen anything like this being used, feel free to watch our video. We have one specifically on how to make the track tools, and of course we use them in all of our flute making videos. Super handy tool. It's like your own personal mortise bit with fire. So you'll notice too that there's some cracking going on here. I'm going to show you a trick that I want everybody to make note of. Anybody that makes flutes. See this stuff? This is like Permatex brand, bought from local Walmart or auto parts store super glue. Cyan acrylic glue. Some handy stuff. Turns everything into plastic. Well, not really, but some really powerful stuff. This is just, you know, whatever brand works. We use so many different types of super glue, you know, in the past and everything. This is Loctite. It's good stuff too. The only thing is, this is gel. And gel won't do this as much as just a real liquid, very viscous glue. One little word of warning. Cyan acrylic glue, although may not have a major toxicity chart on it, as a chemist, or at least a chemistry enthusiast, and maybe a science buff, I'll tell you, don't breathe this stuff in. Let the rod heat up for one more pass and we'll have the whole track area done. The reason I put that super glue on it is to stop any cracking from happening. Not only does it stop the cracking and pretty much prevent it from ever happening, but it also hardens that area right there. It's really good stuff for that. If you find that you have a flute that has a crack, we had a video on repairing flutes. If you get a small crack up here around the mouthpiece, usually comes from not oiling it enough, and you know, different climate changes, breathing through it, there's so many different causes. Just to drop a super glue on it. Drop it there, let it dry, and you're pretty much set. When super glue touches wood, it actually creates a type, as it's drying, it creates a type of wood ester, or let's call it a wood alcohol, for just give it some kind of layman's name. But the wood ester that it creates is also something you don't want to breathe in. So super glue is great. It even says on the bottle you can use it on wood. I don't know how many times people use this stuff on wood, but myself and some of my friends that are woodworkers use it all the time. It's great stuff. Just be mindful of the fumes. Make sure you use it outside. Any other disclaimers you can think of I could name, just go ahead and add them to it. Wear a safety mask, proper ventilation, glasses, safety goggles, and don't wear them on your head like I am right now. Okay, so what we've done is made a really thin track. A really thin track area. I don't know if you can tell, but the thickness, if I had a dollar bill here, I'd show you the thickness of this track area. It's about, I'd say, about 1/4 of a millimeter. That sounds right. It's about 1/4 of a millimeter thick. I want you to see what it sounds like with a track that is so shallow. Sounds pretty good. I'm going to use one of my squeezy clamps to hold this on. Let's see what it sounds like. Sounds pretty good. It doesn't have that real voicey presence The real voicey presence is something that comes with practice, and after you hear enough Native American flutes, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to use this chisel that my good buddy Will gave me. We were at a show together, as we see each other at a lot of shows. He's another flute maker, and I told him, I said, man, I've been running out of X-Acto knives and I can't find this particular blade I want. He said, well, why don't you use a chisel instead? So I sharpened it, and man, this thing has been the stuff. So I'm going to sharpen this area here in a little bit, actually dig down into it, into the burnt char scar tissue. And this will actually, I believe, give it that voicey presence we want. If you noticed when I was burning, I'm going to use my other file to show you this. I actually burnt this at kind of an angle right here. Okay, these files are super handy. I got mine in Harbor Freight at Lowe's and Home Depot, and probably any of your hardware stores, whether it be in the outback of Australia, downtown San Juan de Teotihuacan, a la Mexico, or if you're in the UK somewhere. I know there's going to be somebody that has these tiny little jeweler's files, super handy, makes things really nice and smooth. And then check this out, I'm going to lift up and I'm going to sand, or rather file, the area underneath of my knife edge, which is what I call this area right here, because it makes it sharper and smoother. And anything you can do to make that sharper and smoother makes a better sounding flute. Now this one, I bet, will be amazing sounding. Let's see what it sounds like. Okay. Needs to be tuned a little bit, but we're not shooting for tuning today. We have yet another video for that. So what I'm going to do right now, since we've seen what it sounded like with a thin track area, we've seen what it sounded like with, perfect track area, and a lot of you are wondering at home with your pencil and paper in hand, thinking, well, what size is a perfect track area? That track area is about 1/2 millimeter, maybe 3/4 of a millimeter thick or deep. It's the thickness of a piece of paper folded twice, and it varies a little bit. What would make the best sounding track area varies slightly depending on how low toned your flute is, how wide this area is. High pitched flutes have a little bit shallower track area. Our low toned flutes have a lot deeper track area. It's something you've got to work on, and that's the whole purpose of this video, is to let you know that, once again, none of this stuff is set in stone. You can do whatever you like, however it works best for you. If you have a nice flat area here, you're already halfway there. This is the most important part of the flute, and anything you can do to candy coat it is best. Sometimes, if it's too coarse right in here or too rough, I'll even drop a dab of that cyanoacrylic super glue in there and let it harden and come back and buff it down, and oh my goodness, those are the best ones. So my track tool has gotten really hot. What I'm doing right now is going beyond good sounding flute depth. I'm going to burn it just a little bit too much. A lot of you might be thinking right now, hey, that's how deep mine is. I think I can probably turn my fire off because we won't need it anymore. And I'm going to clean this area up with my chisel here. So it's all nice and clean, nice and square. I'm going to clean this back end up just a little bit. And now we're going to see what it sounds like, which I have a feeling is going to be a little airy. And many of you at home are probably thinking, yeah, that's what mine looks like right now. If you look inside of here too, look how deep that dude is. It is so deep in there. It's a good 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more. Not quite a 3/16, but 1/8 of an inch at least. Let's see what it sounds like. Okay, so that probably reminds some of you of maybe some of the flutes that you've tried to make. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of my first flutes sounded just like that, so you're in good hands. Don't worry about it. You're going to get this fixed up, and I'll show you. A lot of you are thinking, why did he mess up such a pretty flute? Well, it's not messed up. This is actually a great flute in the making, and it just needs a little bit of TLC. So, what I'm going to do here, show you a couple of alternate methods. In the shop, we have a lot of sandpaper laying around. Sandpaper works great. Anybody know what sandpaper is made out of? That piece was made out of cloth, but this one's just made out of paper. So paper comes from trees. The story goes on, but you know, you can actually use that paper to fill up this area, or if you want to be really fancy, you can take a piece of river cane, just a little one like this, and your trusty X-Acto knife, and you can cut an area out very carefully. Watch those fingers. Okay, so what we've done here is we've made a nice, reasonably flat little piece, and I'm going to take some sandpaper again, hold this flute so you can see everything happening here. I'm going to go back and forth just a little bit like this, just to flatten it out some. You guys are thinking, what the heck is he doing? By the way, I hope you all enjoyed our last video on making flutes in the park with just a pocket knife and a few sticks. If you haven't seen that one yet, please check it out, and check out how excited I was when that thing played. Everybody seems to enjoy that. So right now what I'm doing is I've gotten it reasonably flat on the bottom. Certainly the top is kind of flat. This piece of river cane here is actually thinner than the depth of my track, which is what I was shooting for. So what I've done is I've sanded it down a little bit. You notice it almost fits in that area, not quite yet. Let's take a shortcut and give him just a little bit of a shave there. And let's see what this does. Yep, almost there, not quite. Give him another tiny little shave. Let's see if that does it. And that does it. How about that? So we have a piece that fits down into that track. Okay, not too shabby. I'm going to cut the end of this piece off so it's not so long, just like that. Just like scored a piece of flex board and boom. Hope you guys like my sound effects. They're at no extra charge. And move the sandpaper off of here. I'm going to show you exactly how we do this. There's nothing to it. If you've already made a beautiful flute and it's a little airy and the track level is a little too deep, you're going to say, man, I've got to go try this right now, because you're going to be amazed. I think, anyway. So we've got that in there. We're pushing this guy down inside, and it's actually hanging over a little bit in a couple of different areas, but that's okay. I'll show you why that's okay. Super glue holds really quick. Watch your fingers. They do make something I recommend. It's super glue removal glue, whatever it is, some kind of cream, I don't know. It comes in a little glue tube, but it takes super glue apart, which is kind of good. I've never used this stuff. I've always used pocket knives. I don't recommend that though. So we've got this stuff pretty much stuck in there, and I'm going to outline the edges just a little bit with some more cyanacrylic super glue. Really handy stuff. We've used this stuff for everything. Next, I'm going to go back and light my tool here, my burning tool. The same one we made the track with, we're going to use to clean up this area. And because I've got so much super glue on it there, you're going to see a few things that takes place with it. Maybe not too close with the video, but when you do it in person, you'll see it. Like I said, be very mindful using heat around super glue. I don't know if it has Disclaimer on there, but caution bonds skin and eyes in seconds. Read carefully other precautions on the back. Let's see, contains ethyl cyanacrylic, and may cause allergic skin reaction. Skin contact through clothing may cause burns. In case of eye or skin contact, flush with water for 15 minutes. Call a physician. Carefully peel or roll skin apart. Keep out of the reach of children. My little boy come in here one time and picked up a tube of super glue, and he's like, "Dad, this is stuck to me," you know. But we got him taken care of, no problem. No casualties around here if we can help it. But read your precautions. Know what it is that you're using. If you're using another brand, it may not be cyanacrylic. It may react a little differently. This one contains cyanacrylic. Use in a well-ventilated area. I can't tell you how important that is. Even with burning tools, use those in a well-ventilated area. When you heat this stuff up, the acrylic effect takes effect immediately. If you've got any acrylic fillings or ever had any acrylic anything else done, but they use a heater sometimes to cure that stuff. And even the steam off of a burnt piece of wood will cause the acrylic to solidify, which is kind of cool. But you know, I'm gonna let this heat up for just another second because I like to put my little dish on it back here. But you see our depth. Our depth is back up to that same depth that we liked. You know, I mean, there's nothing to it. I can probably, I don't remember if I've ever tried this before, but I can probably go back over it just a little bit, just to clean it up, with my really sharp 1/4 inch, whatever brand this is, Buck Brothers. I think this one's from Home Depot or Lowe's. I think even Walmart carries this brand. Once again, if you're in the United States, you're in Mexico, checkale por favor su bodega herrera, which is still Walmart. Any kind of store you can find. Ace Hardware is good. I'd like to give you guys a little bit of information about where I get this stuff. Not because these companies are paying me, maybe they should, but just so that you can know what it is that I do. Just like that last video where we made the flute in the park, you use what you can find. There we go, kind of cleaned up a little bit. I think that's enough. I can probably turn my fire off. I'm going to take one last tiny little step and grab my little bitty piece of sandpaper like this. In case you don't have X-Acto knives or a blade nearby, check this out. Let me see. I'm going to take the nice square edge of this guy, and how about that? Makes a nice little square shape. That square shape does a really good job of sanding in here. I think I learned that about, I don't know, 650,000 flutes ago. I have to ask my wife where we're at now. I know last time I told y'all we're up to at least 900,000 that we've made. I'm pretty sure it's more than that. So that's just a good estimate based on numbers that we have. 900 and something thousand flutes. Oh my gosh. I feel them in my bones. Okay, just cleaning this area up a little bit. Oh, any of you guys who have been sticking with us for a while, interested in making Native American flutes, please stay along for a little while longer. We are going to have the book ready soon with all of my tips and tricks of making Native American flutes. You guys are going to love it. It's a really neat book. I'm very proud of it. We're just not completely gone to the publisher with it yet. So, see what we've done here. We have a nice track area that is made out of the same stuff that was originally in there. That super glue is not going to come out for the life of this flute, ever. I mean, it's there. And we've put this thing back on in here, our little flute block, put our clamp on it. Let's see what this sounds like. Please sound good. I don't know if any of you can hear it, but it actually got in tune while we were doing that. Any of you that are interested in tuning flutes, you might want to make note. The size, shape, and location of this edge of the track area actually determines a lot of the intonation. The way your track is designed really determines a lot of the intonation. You can make it a bunch of different ways. You can make it go flat, straight down. You can make it at a slant. You can make a big slant, little slant, whatever. And all that is going to help you make your flute sound better. Like I said, all these tips and tricks are going to be in our flute making book, which is going to be available very, very soon on Amazon, and I'll let you know when it is. Likewise, if we were going to make that piece out of paper, we would have taken some scissors, cut us a little slit of it, glue the paper down. If it didn't seem thick enough, it was still too airy, we'd cut another slit just like it, glue it down, and believe it or not, you can actually use a burning tool over it, you can use the files on it, you can use even a big old chisel like this guy, X-Acto knives, everything on the paper, sandpaper, notebook paper, any kind of the paper off of a drinking straw, you can use any kind of paper like that to fill that hole with, and you've made a beautiful sounding flute that is going to stay good for the rest of its life like that. So just want to give you guys a little bit of tips and some help on flute making. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a good rating. Keep watching our videos. The thing that I like the most is hearing from my customers that you've made flutes and they've turned out great. Send us a message on our Facebook, which is at Blue Bear Arts. You can send us contact through our website, which is bluebearflutes.com, and of course always leave us a comment on YouTube. Fortunately, my wife Jessie keeps track of most of them pretty well. So if you have any other questions, let us know. It inspires us to make new videos on Native American flute making. Thanks so much again, and y'all take care. Happy flute making. Be safe. Please be careful in your flute endeavors, and we'll see you soon.